This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
The primary purpose of Uniquely Human, the podcast, is to educate and inform. The views expressed during all episodes are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute educational or medical advice. Listeners should consult with professionals familiar with each individual or family for specific guidance.
Uniquely Human, the podcast, is produced by Elevated Studio. Music is graciously provided by Matt Savage of Savage Records.
Hi, I'm Dr. Barry Prezant, clinical scholar, researcher, and consultant on autism and neurodiversity, and a Brooklyn boy raised in the big city.
And I'm Dave. I'm none of those things, and I grew up on a farm in Illinois. But being on the spectrum myself, I have plenty of personal insight to lend.
And this is Uniquely Human, the podcast, a show that illuminates and celebrates autism and neurodiversity. Today on Uniquely Human, the podcast, we have a very special guest, and that is Jim Coleman. Jim, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Barry. I was really honored that you are having me as a guest. Thank you.
Well, it really is a pleasure, and I think our listeners are going to be absolutely taken and fascinated by your range of experiences and expertise. So let's kick it off, and I'll share some more about you.
Okay.
Jim currently serves as a semi-retired professor of biology at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And by the way, I spent a year at Chapel Hill a few years ago. He is also an outside affiliate of the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation at Vanderbilt University. And I have to interject that my son is beginning his residency in psychiatry at Vanderbilt in just weeks from now, a few weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. Jim is also a fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science and a distinguished alumnus of the Yale School of the Environment, the principal or co-principal investigator on approximately $260 million of research, education, and research infrastructure, including gifts, grants, and contracts. In particular, and more recently, Jim has started a Substack page where he's writing a book telling a humorous story of navigating academia as an autistic person. And I love the title, Pathologically Genuine. That's terrific.
Perfect.
For much of his life, Jim felt like a banana slug transported into the Mojave Desert without the appropriate evolutionary adaptations. And Jim, you've also shared that your late diagnosis transformed you by providing a context and a map, in that you thought you were a messed up horse for 58 years, and then you discovered you're actually a zebra.
Yep, that's it.
And
love it.
In addition to all of this, you partner with your therapy dog, Bria, at several different places to share time with autistic people or people recovering from mental illness. So you give back. Boy, that's huge. So what else can you add? Can you give us a bird's eye view of your journey that led you to what you're focusing on now? And then we're really going to dig in.
Okay. Well, I'll just start real quickly. I was born in Pittsburgh, and my parents played a huge role in my life. So my dad was a civil rights leader and an academic. And when he died, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette called him the connective tissue of Pittsburgh.
Wow.
So, and he was also something I didn't learn until I started teaching again is how much I inherited his teaching ability. So one of the things he did is he cared about every one of his students and believed in every one of them. And I was really happy when I learned I inherited that. And then my mother was a special ed teacher in Pittsburgh's roughest schools. And my dad's personality was big and my mother wasn't. But when we died, we actually didn't know some of this until she died, that she was one of the founders of the Society for Social Workers that work with transplant patients. And she had actually published a paper that she had never told us about how faith helps people who are transplant patients heal. So anyway, so that's a little bit. We moved from Pittsburgh to Connecticut when I was 12, and that's when I think my autistic traits really caused a lot of pain. But we'll probably talk about that later. From an academic sense, I have 4 phases of my career, and the first phase, I mean, I was a teacher and I love teaching, but research was really important to me. And my field would be called plant physiological ecology, which I'm sure all of your listeners know.
Oh yeah, I mean, just what else is new?
Yeah, but you can think of the field as people who walked into the tundra or into a desert and saw plants living there and asked how in the heck can they live in this environment, and then studied the physiological adaptations for that. And so, that's where the banana slug comes. I mean, I teach evolution and I worked in the Mojave Desert and I love banana slugs. And so, one of the funny things is I will argue that plants are cooler than animals. And I say that because if you're a human and it gets too hot, it gets too cold, you just go inside. If you're a plant, you got to sit there and you have nowhere to move. So you have to have amazing physiological mechanisms to deal with that. And so that's why that was really exciting for me.
If I could add, I have about 80 house plants, and if they could survive me, they really adapt well.
Yeah, there are some plants you really just can't kill. So, and then right when I got tenure, I had a chance to go to the National Science Foundation to run their program in ecological and evolutionary physiology, which was where almost everybody in my field got funded. And when I interviewed for that job, the person who interviewed me was like, "So do you want to be a dean or a department chair one day?" And I looked at her in horror, because like my view of administrators was people who wore suits and made my life miserable. But I discovered at NSF that being an administrator is about making other people successful and organizations successful, and that I really liked it and I was pretty good at it. And so that led me into a long administrative career. And I was a vice president for research at 3 different places, a dean at 1, and a provost at 3. Then So I would say that's my second phase, was sort of trying to build organizations and people. And a lot of the grant money was really during that phase because they were institutional level grants. And then my third phase then is when I left the provost job here, I came back to be a faculty member and I started teaching again. And I find teaching to be the most meaningful thing I've ever done. And part of that is because I teach at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. So our student population is over 60% Pell eligible, which means they're financially challenged. Over 50% are first generation, a lot of first generation Americans, and about 40% are transfer students, mostly from community colleges. So you can really make a difference in their lives, and they really, really appreciate it. And I hate it because I read so much about how entitled and terrible this generation is. I mean, these students are amazing to me. I'm in awe. I mean, if I had the challenges they had, I'd never have finished undergraduate.
Sure.
So, yeah. Anyway, and then my final phase, which I'm in now, is as I learned I was neurodiverse and realized how many neurodiverse students there are, that I'm focusing on sort of advocacy for neurodiverse people, and also I'm writing my story about being a late diagnosed autistic person, and as a way for, I hope, people can relate to.
Yeah, I think sharing the story is one of the most powerful methods or forms of advocacy. When people can relate and say, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm not alone." like you said, wait a minute, there's a zebra? I just thought I was another messed up horse. And, and you realize there's a whole field of zebras out there.
You're right. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Well, and when you talk about you love teaching, one of the things that it was very interesting to me is it's something I read that you either wrote or you said. You referred to yourself as an autistic empath. Yeah. And we actually did an interview about empaths and the overlap between neurodivergent people and empaths. Yeah. So if you could talk about that, you have this deep sense of caring and really wanting for people to have a good kind of success in their life moving forward, especially students.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I can't help it. Like I walk into a classroom and I teach relatively large classes. I mean, being semi-retired, I teach one class a semester, and I teach one that's about 150 to 200 students, and then I teach one that's 30 to 50. And anyway, but I walk into a classroom of 170 students, and I can't help it. I feel like every one of them is part of my extended family. I mean, that's just, I don't know how not to do that. And like my dad, I believe in every one of them. And so I spend, even in a class of 170 students, I spend a lot of time just trying to get to know students. And I struggled with mental health and depression, and Prozac really saved me in like 1993. And I promised myself I would do everything to destigmatize mental health. So I talk a lot about my challenges and how I got through them. And then I also talk about being autistic. And when students like miss a class or something, even on a class of 200, they'll get an email from me that just says, "Are you okay?" And those three words are amazingly powerful when people trust you. And a lot of times they tell me they're not okay, and then we work to try to help them. So I don't know how to explain it really. I mean, it's just, that's how, I just feel that way. I walk into a classroom, and what's really cool to me is that students recognize it. There was one semester, it was one of the first semesters I taught coming back, and I was in the second week of class, and I was getting notes from students that you're the most caring professor I've ever had. And I was like, I didn't know what I had done that was caring. So at the end of the semester, I asked, I got closer to some students, and I had a really good relationship with one student. And I said, like, what was that about? And she was like, oh, it's just obvious. Like the second you walk in the classroom, your body language, the way you speak, what you gave us before class, that you're just a caring and genuine person. And so, when we talk about pathologically genuine, that's the good part of being pathologically genuine, is for whatever reason, students see that immediately. And, if we have time later, I can read you a couple quotes from them about how caring they think I am, or I can do that now if you want.
Absolutely. I mean, please do share, because that's to make, I guess my wife always says energy doesn't lie. So to make that immediate impression on a room full of people who don't know you, people who are in a completely different generation, there are a million different ways that they are different, right?
Yep.
And immediately have a connection to you, that only can come from authentic energy. Yeah,
no, I totally agree. And I think what I've learned is this generation of students has really sensitive bullshit detectors. Yes. They've been told all their life that they're cared about, by everybody in school, and then they don't see that in action. And so, so it's great because they see it in me. And I mean, I don't want to be egotistical about it. It's great. And I leverage that, and I love it because, I do everything I can to not let a student fail. Like I will bug them to death just to get them the assignments in. And so I have a really low, what we call DFW rate, or failure rate, in my classes, because I just won't let people fail if I can help it. So
nice.
Did you want to hear one of the quotes?
Sure.
Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so this is one I got from a student by email a week or so ago, this semester, and she said, "Oh, I also didn't want to miss the chance to tell you how much I truly appreciate you as a professor. You've made such a meaningful impact on me and so many others in the class. It's not often that students feel genuinely seen and valued, but you've created that environment for us. The fact that you took the time to learn our names, check in on how we were doing, and treat us like people rather than just students has meant more than I can fully put into words. I've had plenty of classes, but yours has stood out in a way that I'll remember long after this semester. You've made coming to class something to look forward to, and that's something special. It's clear that you care and that effort doesn't go unnoticed. It truly makes a difference. Thank you for everything you've done for us. I'm really grateful to have had you for a professor." And
that brings to mind the very famous Maya Angelou quote, which I'll probably mess up, but it's something about people forget kind of the facts of circumstances where they got to know you, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, and I hope they do.
Yeah.
I'll just say, so I got one comment this year that was it's very short, but it's the first time. But it's the first time I've been called a goat. So I love this class. Dr. Coleman is the goat. Anytime I can have the opportunity to be in his class, it's a blessing. And then there's one other short one I got last year. Dr. Coleman is a national treasure.
There you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard not to feel the meaning, when you're being able to build those kind of relationships with students. So
yeah, and at that point in the semester, the students have no reason to pull any punches, right? So these are authentically, positive remarks.
Yeah, so I've taught about a little over 1,000 students since 2021. And I save every one of these notes because I get depressed every once in a while, so I can go read them. But I have about 1,000 of them, and they all, most of them have the same theme about just how caring they see me as a professor, and so it's great.
And it goes without saying almost that what you're sharing right now is just, again, shattering myths about what autism is about, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And it's great. It's wonderful that you embrace that feedback and those feelings that you get from students or from other people. Yeah. Because I always say to younger professionals, if something really good happens and they say, well, I feel a little shy about winning this award. I said, embrace it.
Yeah.
This is who you are. Get out to a mountaintop and share it. I mean, you should be very proud. So.
You should be. And I'll tell you, the way people toss around the word autistic as an adjective outside of any kind of clinical or professional sense, where I work out is a community recreation center or whatever, and our taxes pay for it, so it's free, and so there's a lot of high school kids there, and I will hear groups of high school kids at a time making jokes like if somebody was just completely oblivious to what was going on around them during the lift, his friend might say like, wow, that was very autistic of you.
Oh God. Yeah.
And what we would prefer to hear is a more balanced perspective when a professor is beloved, referred to as a national treasure, is asked, would you consider becoming an administrator and really running the show? That's when we should be saying like, wow, that's very autistic of you.
That'd be great.
Yes.
By the way, I'm not sure my wife agrees with the national treasure idea.
Hey, you've got it in writing. This is an unassailable compliment.
Is it? Yeah. Well, I could see in my situation what I'd get is, but let's talk about the pain in the butt side of you.
Yeah. And honestly, just to go back, I think my wife sometimes, once I understood I was autistic and some of the traits that I have, like, needing to control my sensory environment, so much. And I realized how much of a saint she is, and having lived with me for 27 years. But anyway, Dave, like, you're completely right. I mean, I guess I don't know exactly what to say here, but I mean, autism. When I read stuff, for example, on LinkedIn or AI, there's this absolute and clear nature about the way people talk about autism and what autism people need, and that is, to me, autism is anything but absolute and clear.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, so yeah, it would really be great for people to say, look at Jim, his way of caring, that he's so autistic.
Yes. Yes.
That would be great.
A true compliment instead of a backhanded.
He's monotropically autistic. He hyper focuses on caring about people.
Right.
Goodness. So I'm going to dig in on a couple of things that you've either said or that I read about you in writing. And one is this, and it's one of, as you well know, it's one of the hot issues in autism right now. So you said masking is a curious issue. I am a totally different person in my professional roles than socially. I think most would call that masking, but it doesn't feel that way to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's, especially, so you can see with students, I have no problem, right, engaging with students and in a very, a very intimate way in terms of caring about them. And I mean, I actually, so like in class, for example, I have 75-minute classes. Nobody has a 75-minute attention span. So I do something fun at the beginning of the class, and I'll just, I write a song for each class, and I started playing it in class, and students love it. So sometimes I'll play a song, before class, and it's great when I have 200 students because they all applaud. But anyway, but my point is that is not me. I mean, I am super shy. And so, but that doesn't come over me when I'm being a professor. And when I was a dean and I hosted fundraising parties, you would have never, ever guessed that I was shy and introverted. But I never, that wasn't, I mean, I would always be exhausted after those events, which, a lot of autistic people talk about how exhausting masking is. But it just, when I learned I was autistic, I didn't think like I was consciously masking. It was just easier to do that in my job than it was than as a person. So, as a person, when I walk into a party where I don't have a role, I mean, I'm not only uncomfortable, I'm terrified. And in fact, I wrote a recent story, but I mean, one of the things that was really hard for me looking back is the way academics teach people to network is to go to large professional meetings. I went to large professional meetings for 35 years and came back depressed every time because, I was terrified in those 3,000 people receptions, and I wasn't able to make small talk. And so I wasn't really able to mask very well when I wasn't something central to the social gathering. But when I was in my professor role or dean or provost doing my job, it was easy for me. And so that's why when I read how difficult it is for when autistic people talk about how difficult masking is and how energy draining it is, that just wasn't my experience because I don't really know that I'm masking. I mean, it just feels like me, but it feels like me as Jim the professor, not, Jim the student. I mean, Jim the person.
You step into that role. Yeah. And you play that role.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment, and this is going to be a surprise to Dave. I'm finishing writing a book on neurodiversity right now, and Dave, you're in it a number of times.
Ruh-roh.
and one of the comments that I make, and you've said this actually, and that is when I go to a conference. I'm a little bit of a introvert as well, but I want to schmooze for different reasons, and maybe I'll get another invite to speak somewhere, so I want to spread myself thin socially. And Dave says he wants to get out of that room as soon as possible to go back to the hotel room and watch episodes of South Park.
Dave, I'm with you.
I think that's most of us. I have to believe that's most.
But,
that is totally accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a piece on Substack about my terror at a professional meeting. And I have gotten a couple comments from other academics is like, a lot of us feel that way, And so I think that is probably something more of us should talk about because, I mean, everybody thinks they're supposed to be successful at networking in those large meetings. And,
but there's got to be a way to. I understand the nature of it, because I've attended those 3,000-4,000 people conferences, and I've spoken, delivered keynote addresses to them as well. And what I love is delivering the keynote because it's me on stage, and I don't. There's virtually no reciprocity other than just managing, my presentation based on the audience feedback. That's it. But I understand they're set up for efficiency, but professional organizations have to consider, especially academic organizations or research organizations, scientific ones, where a lot of us are, kind of cut from a cloth, right? Figuring out ways that you could actually make it a meaningful networking event and not just an information exchange event. I think those are two different things. And I don't know the solution to it, but that has to be a challenge. Think about how many, I would say the opportunity cost to any professional organization that fails to provide realistic or adequate networking opportunities for the participants. Certain dots that could have connected just don't because of people like Jim, like myself, who, unlike Barry, look at it and say, I'm not going to give it the college try, no pun intended. I am actually going to fly out of here as soon as this paper is delivered. But again, there's also an opportunity, I think, for the folks like Jim and me to maybe even receive specific coaching from other people in our community to say, here's how you schmooze your way through a conference. Now, what you do after it, totally up to you, but here's how you get through the next 4 hours. Here's how you glad hand people. Here's how you strike up that conversation that feels utterly meaningless, but then you find this kernel of meaning in it. It's kind of a skill that you develop, but that's also easier said than done. Yeah, because you've got the anxiety layer on top of it too.
Yeah, and my response. I gave a presentation to graduate directors at Duke on a neurodiversity panel, and for me, I think what was missing, is that there wasn't a conversation with me and my advisor about a networking plan. And what was going to work for me. I mean, it turns out I had a great advisor that actually really helped me because I was at a research institute where there were lots of small meetings with people coming in or getting to work in relatively small groups of people where they got to know you. And so I've actually built a really strong network, but none of it came from the professional meetings. And I think what was terrible for me is just how angst-filled and depressed I was afterwards because I couldn't, every time I think I'm going to do it this time, and then, I'd come back again feeling, depressed and just so awkward that I wasn't able to actually network with anybody.
I won't say this about everybody, but by and large, I'm noticing a pattern here is that we autistics tend to be our harshest critics. We beat up on ourselves far more severely when we fail to hit a mark that we are aiming for than anybody else around us ever would. Now, there's obviously exceptions, but and I wonder, do you see that as a professor as well? Can you see pockets of, we'll say, neurodivergent individuals in any given classroom setting where you think, oh man, this student's going to take this so badly, but I have to deliver the bad news to them, and they are going to be way harder on themselves than anyone here at the university ever would.
Yeah, well, I think that's a trait I had. Like my parents never had to be hard on me because I was hard on me. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, I definitely see that with a lot of students, and but yeah, definitely with ones that are neurodiverse.
Mm-hmm.
Where they think they're failing, and I have to tell them, no, you're doing great.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
Yeah,
know, that actually, once again, Dave, you're reading my mind. See, autistic people are telepathic. They are, you know.
yeah,
And I was going to ask Jim about something that you've shared, and that is, you know, what you feel is a fairly sizable proportion of students in your classes who definitely may be diagnosed or undiagnosed are neurodivergent in some way.
yeah.
So, do you want to talk about that? Because I think, you know, you provide a window, or I guess you could say a mirror for some of these students. And it's a very special role that you would play as opposed to another professor.
Yeah. So I think I told you. I mean, I've taught over 1,000 students. I bet over 200 of them have disclosed to me that they're neurodiverse in some way.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, and but very few of them have accommodations.
Hmm.
But and also, many of them who aren't autistic have autistic people in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So they, so it just, my disclosure about that just makes it easy for people to disclose to me about it.
So, is that
Um,
something you do at the beginning of classes, the beginning of a semester?
yeah, actually, I have a syllabus that talks about all of that,
Uh-huh.
and then yeah, and I talk about it in the first lecture, and I talk about making sure I talk about depression at least several times a semester.
Mm-hmm.
Our students are so anxious right now. I mean, anxiety is just off the chart for all of them.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple of things. I mean, one is just because I've dealt with mental health issues and I've been in therapy for so long. I mean, in various therapy, and we also have a mental health first aid training course here, which I took and others have taken. But it's very easy for me to talk about with students who are struggling, and I'll often just talk about how I experienced it, and this enables them to sort of, like you had said before, Dave, relate. When they see it relates to them. And I always have the goal, if they need it, of getting them to our counseling center or to
Hmm.
help. It's a challenge, like for many who think they're ADHD, to get assessed. Like at our school, I think the waiting list is like a year. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and but a lot of students think they have those traits. So anyway, I guess so. So one issue I've discovered that there may be one or two other faculty that can talk to students about autism or just mental health with the ease that I can do it. But it's because of being autistic and because of having to deal with mental health for so long. I think the other thing for me, and I remember you had a guest that talked about Umwelt communication. Um, and so, the word Umwelt was coined by a German evolutionary biologist, like in the 19 or early 1900s, and it just means the perception, the perceptory world of an organism. And and then Ed Jong is a science writer. He wrote a book. Oh, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's about animal behavior, and he talks about how different. For example, like a mockingbird has four opsins and we only have three, so they see a whole range of colors that we don't see. And bees live in a world of
Wow.
magnetism and ultraviolet light. So I actually took this concept of MWELT, and it really changed me in my classes, because the reality is every human being is living in a different perceptory world.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so as a professor, right, you get so frustrated when you say something and students hear something different, and but now I'm so not judgmental about that. I mean, I talk about the fact that we're all sensing and processing the world a little bit differently,
Mm-hmm.
and so anyway, so I'm not sure this is where your question was going, Barry, but for me, it's made me so much less judgmental and so much more able to understand when students don't seem to be getting what I'm talking about, or might get upset about something I said that I had no idea could have been upsetting. That doesn't happen very often, but so I guess yeah. So I think that's a concept that has been very useful for me. But I think, in reaction to one of the things I've learned about neurodiverse and autistic people is they're as different from each other as they are from the non-neurodiverse and autistic people. And so this is why, for me, that caring about individual students is just so important.
I think it was Michael John Carley, a dear friend of ours and one of our regular guests, who says that when you meet an autistic person, they're probably more a product of their life experiences than they are of their autism.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, where it's hard to tease them apart. So, for example, Bree and I go to a school for autistic kids, and I ended up being on the board after doing pet therapy there. So I'm out on the playground, with 75 kids every Wednesday, so there's one student who's on and off, but he was a foster child that was abused. So, which part of that is autism and which part of that is trauma abuse is really hard.
Yes.
And then there was another example, like where two kids got in a fight, and I was out there, but I didn't really see it. And I asked the head of school, what was that about? And she goes, "Oh, that was adolescence. That had nothing to do with autism."
Oh, that's right.
I like this distinction because, like you, Jim, I published a book, and I had it's about my wife, my relationship, and being a garbage husband. But that's right on the book jacket, by the way. But I got a lot of letters from wives, husbands asking, "Hey, we struggle with the same things. Is it possible I'm autistic?" And I always had to tell people, like, well, just pump the brakes here and look at, separate what are autistic traits. Like, really educate yourself on what clinically autism is. Understand the human experience of autism, and then regard the other things as you just weren't there in your development as a person yet. There's nothing in the autism profile that dictates whether or not somebody would willingly unload a dishwasher. You just need to step up and be a responsible human. It has nothing to do with autism, right?
And also being a student of child and human development on my end, I always say, listen, we're all evolving human beings going through stages. And, being on the spectrum, and I'm saying this not being on the spectrum, but my take on it is that being on the spectrum can shape what your trajectory looks like, or particular challenges you might have around puberty or other times. So it's almost like you have to just look at the whole notion of we're all evolving human beings, but then you look at through the lens of, well, what does autism kind of color in your evolution?
A new school year means a fresh start. For families that are looking for a new path to help their child succeed, K-12 could be the perfect fit. K-12 powered schools offer tuition-free, accredited, online public education for students in kindergarten through 12th grade. They know learning isn't one size fits all and will meet your child where they are. K-12 has been a leader in online education for over 25 years. They provide everything a student needs to feel safe, motivated, and thrive in their learning environment. With flexible education options tailored to each child's needs, interests, and goals for the future. K-12's dedicated teachers are trained in virtual instruction and provide real-time support. Plus, students will belong to a vibrant online community with opportunities for extracurricular activities to help them connect with peers and explore interests, all in a setting that works for your family. See how K-12-powered schools can help unlock your child's full potential. Enroll online today at k12.com/FWD. That's the letter K, the number 12.com/FWD. K12.com/FWD.
Jim, I was going to say, tell us a little bit more about what you just brought up, your work with Bria and your work with people with mental health challenges and also neurodevelopmental conditions. I'm just curious what you get out of it, what drew you to that, and tell us about Bria, because we have a wonderful puppy who we hope will be kind of a support puppy at some point.
So her name is spelled Bria, but it actually is pronounced Brie.
Brie, okay. Yeah.
But we adopted her as an adult. She was a retired breeder at a very good kennel. I mean, she was well taken care of. But I've had 7 golden retrievers, and she's a golden, and I've always adopted them as adults. And so, anyway, but when I got Brie, I wanted to train her as a therapy dog, largely because I wanted to take her into my classes. And part of that is because, I mean, and I think this has to do with my autism. The only place I really feel like I belong is when I'm with my dog.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so pets are so important to me. And there was a time in my life where, I mean, I've had suicidal ideation my whole life, but there was a couple times I was close. And, you know, and having a dog, A, as a friend, and B, as something I needed to take care of, partly saved me. So, you know, so this was, you know, I bet a lot of students would, you know, benefit from pet therapy. And so she does come to my classes, and a lot of students love her and some students don't. So, you know, and then she goes to the autistic school, and it was, you know, I thought all of them were going to love dogs, but no, they all don't love dogs. But a lot of them do. And one of the things that I've noticed with her is that if people like dogs, she can transform them in 30 seconds, you know, from high anxiety to calm, from feeling alone to not. And so I have this one great example at the autistic school for autistic kids, right? That's a terrible way to say it. But there's a girl there who really likes Brie. And a lot of times we're outside. This day we weren't, so we go into classrooms. And we couldn't go into the classroom that girl was that day because there was one kid who was very, very afraid of dogs. And so they were going to have the kids that wanted to see Brie go to another classroom. And the girl that likes her, I called out to her and said, "Do you want to come?" And she didn't respond. And then the teacher whispered to me and said, "Oh, she's having a really bad day." So we went into another room, and Brie was laying on the floor surrounded by students. And this girl came over and she sat in front of Brie, and she petted Brie for about 30 seconds. And then she said, I'm getting over it. I'm getting over it. I want to call my mom and tell her I'm getting over it. And so I see that stuff like that almost every day. So
yeah.
And then another place I volunteer is at a community center for people recovering from mental illness. And you know, and we go there every week. So Brie's part of their family, and it's Brie Day. So like Brie goes to the school for autistic kids, to the sanctuary house, and to hospice once a week, and every place it's Brie Day. And it's been great for me to learn how to be irrelevant, because like 100 people every week want to take Brie home. No one wants to take me home. So, and mostly I'm known as the guy that comes with Brie. You know?
Yeah. You're the price of admission. Like, where's Brie? Yeah. Oh, there's that guy with her.
But anyway, it's, you know, it's amazing. I really think the world would be a very different place if we had therapy dogs all around the place.
Agreed. Yeah. I totally agree.
It's just amazing how they can calm people if people like dogs.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And dogs choose us, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say, wolves chose us, not the opposite way around. Really. So,
with your Substack column, you're working towards a book, or is the book complete? You know, pathologically genuine.
Yeah, so I'm working on it. I have a book coach, and we'll probably get a book proposal done this summer. I may have an agent lined up. We'll see. So if my book proposal is good enough, I think I will. So, but it's been. I mean, you both know it. You write books, but it's been really hard it's not hard. It's been exhilarating but challenging to learn how to write narrative memoir, especially a lot of my stuff on Substack was essays. And so now I'm starting to do narrative. But also as a scientist, we want to tell everybody what it is in the first sentence.
Right.
And so it's learning how to write, so that a reader wants to stay with you and doesn't know where you're going. That has been really fun, but also challenging. But I have a great book coach, and it's been a blast.
Great.
And a little free. If this helps you, Jim, what I found after I wrote my first draft, which was like 6,000 pages and all over the place, and my editor said, somebody has to read this,
That's right. Who is the reader? Yes.
Right. So my second draft, one of the exercises was I went through and I had the thesis of a chapter. And then I called it my first sentences approach. I had never written anything. I didn't have a degree in literature or anything. I was an engineer, and I just stumbled into an opportunity to write a book. So I architected what I call my first sentences approach. And I knew that a chapter would be good for the reader. It would hook them and hang them if every first sentence of every paragraph, if you removed the rest of the paragraph and only left the first sentences, that would be the entire chapter in one thing. And I used that little method to get myself through. And this is for people listening too, because we have a lot of people who are like, "Hey, I want to write a book." If you can pace it that way, then that can help to sort of shatter some of the what feels like an enormous task of doling out the story in bite-sized pieces.
Yeah. Well, thanks. That's very helpful.
Yeah. I think a big problem that people who have the intention to write a book but have never really done that before is, you want to pour out, everything that and it has to be more like 80%. Who am I writing for?
Yeah.
What group of people or person, do I want to really help them be riveted on what I'm saying? And so I switched, say this briefly, but from the academic world of writing, which Jim, well, and then trying to convert to a whole other culture. If you want it to be mainstream and for anybody to pick it up, whether they know about autism or whether they know about, your areas of academic specialty. So important.
Anyway, well, also for me, I knew nothing about the publishing world when I started this. I didn't even really know what the term developmental edit meant. And I didn't know what narrative drive was or emotional arc. And so it's been very fun learning that and adapting my writing to it. And my writing's been growing just a lot in the last couple months. So it's really enjoyable.
And if you haven't hit it yet, you're going to learn a lot about the difference between academic publishers versus mainstream trade book publishers. Totally different worlds. Totally different worlds.
Yes, I know. And fortunately, but my book coach she was a former she worked for Penguin for 12 years as a nonfiction memoir editor. So
wow.
Yeah. So she's always thinking about that side of it when we're talking about my book, which is great.
Well, awesome. Shameless plug. My forthcoming book with Tom Fields-Meyer is from Penguin Random House. So
all right. So I'd probably like to tell one of my funny stories. I guess I have a couple funny stories that are in my book that are related to some things about me being autistic. And so when I was 7 years old, I really loved vending machines. Do you remember the old vending machines where you would, pull a lever and the picture was out?
Yes, it was like brown and sparkly.
Yeah. Well, and anyway, I love those, and I also in bathrooms they sometimes had wash and dry towelette machines, and I really loved getting my wash and dry towelette. I have no idea why. I don't wash my hands all the time, but it was really fun for me.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I have the story when I was 7 years old. and my brother is, well, I was probably 4 years old. I'm sorry. Or I don't know. I was very young, somewhere between 4 and 7. And my brother was 7 years older than me. And we were out at one of our favorite restaurants in Pittsburgh, which was called Minatello's. And it was in the basement of kind of a seedy hotel, but it was a really great restaurant. And I had there was one of those machines in the bathroom, and I begged my mom for a quarter so I could go get my wash and dry towelettes. And I go in and I put the quarter in, and I get a little packet, and it's not wash and dry towelettes. Yeah, and so like, I'm young and I'm optimistic. Like, only good things came out of vending machines, right? So it had to be fun. So I tear open the package, and it's this ugly brown thing that looks like a balloon. And so I walk out into the restaurant holding this thing, and I say to my parents, look at this weird balloon. And of course they cracked up, and everybody in the restaurant cracked up. And I was telling this story to one of the teachers at the school, the school for autistic kids that I go to, and they just said, "You're autistic."
Here's what's great though about autistic perspective is that there's probably a gentleman sitting at the next table who said, "I'll use it," and his wife was thinking, "Are you kidding?"
So this gets to something that is really bugging me about autism these days. Is, first of all, the absolute and clear way that people write about it. But so when I did this piece, like when I was doing my essays, I would look at the literature. I do a Google Scholar search so I could see if what I was going to say made any sense about the research. So there's basically no research on autistic people and vending machines. I found one 1960 paper where they used vending machines. But then I asked AI, and AI gave me an absolute clear answer that autistic people love vending machines because of the predictability and the routine of it. And
it's a coordinate system. It's very reliable.
Yeah.
But such a disconnect.
Anyway. I could actually share something a little bit similar.
Okay.
A woman named Jessie Park, who's actually a very well-known artist. Her late mom wrote some books about her. She was absolutely fascinated with ATM machines. And she always tried to understand that. She always thought there was somebody on the other side of the machine handing you the money when you press the right buttons. So I guess maybe the whole notion of if you get the buttons right, it's very, very predictable, reliable, and you get money out of it.
Yeah. So another thing we had written about when we were communicating was why is being genuine potentially pathological?
Yes.
Right. And so I told you one of the strengths of it. I mean, being genuine, it's really easy to build trust, especially with students, and that was very helpful for me as an administrator and a teacher. But it also makes you very vulnerable if you're in a political environment. And I was in a political environment when I was provost at the University of Arkansas, and I told people around me that I was in therapy, and that I had suffered from depression and stuff. I didn't know I was autistic yet, and there were and both the chancellor and I were not Arkansan, and there was people outside of the university that just didn't want him to be chancellor. And then also by default, me as provost. And so he would get some anonymous letters that were apparently just so much animus, like the envelope should have caught on fire. And he didn't show them to many people, but one day he came in and he wanted me to see one. And every bullet point was shame on you, directed at the chancellor. And shame on you for this decision, shame on you for blank, blank, blank. And one of the bullets towards the end was shame on you for hiring a provost that's crazy and under psychiatric evaluation.
Oh, goodness.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, and it's like, so anyway, there's just for people using that against me. And that's actually right now the first chapter of my book. It's actually the first line, and it sort of ends was I crazy? And and that gets you to talk about, eventually get to what the diagnosis was, for being autistic. But
that's a great opening line for a book. Was I crazy? I mean,
yeah.
All right, this is already a successful book.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And what happened to you and the chancellor? That person would never say it to your face.
No, and in fact, I talk about in this chapter like how hard it was. I grew up in a Jewish family in Pittsburgh that, we spent most of the dinner table arguing.
I could totally relate.
So it's the South was really hard because people don't say what they mean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so someone had to tell me like the bless your heart was like saying a 4-letter word to somebody in New York, right? I mean, but I have another just sort of fun story. Is my wife and I were at a restaurant, and it was a brew pub we love to go to, and the kitchen was having problems, and so our food wasn't coming out. So I asked the waitress, when's the food coming out? And she said, it will be a minute. And I was like, oh, good, it's going to come in a minute. My wife was like, no, Jim, in the South, that means like they have no idea.
Right. I work in a Franco-Italian company, and I had to learn early on that when some of my Italian colleagues would tell me domani, which literally means tomorrow, it really means in actuality probably not today. We won't say when it's going to happen, but it ain't today.
Yeah. So yeah, so that was, that was hard. So there was another story that I like, that gets at sort of the empath, but also what it's like to finally feel understood. Mm-hmm. So when I started teaching at Syracuse in 1990, I ended up with a group of students in my lab. And so they were obviously meant a lot to me. They were some of my first students. And for my birthday or holiday, they bought me a green fleece pullover. And then I had a dog that was a mixed border collie golden retriever then that I was able to bring into work. So that green fleece pullover was always covered with dog hair. So anyway, I still have it 35 years later, and I still wear it a lot. But probably 5 years later, like my mother she hated this green fleece pullover. So she would try to buy me new fleece pullovers, and I never wear them. And then my wife, same thing, like trying to get rid of this pullover. She'd buy me these really nice fleece pullovers, and I would never wear them. And so then she felt hurt by that, and I was autistic, so I don't understand she felt hurt.
That's correct.
But anyway, so we went back to Syracuse for a retirement party for a full professor who was my mentor when I got my job. And we're walking down the hallway into the reception, and two of my old students came out of the room, and I was wearing this green fleece pullover, what we call the green thing. And the students looked at him and they said, it's Jim, and he's wearing the green thing, and it has dog hair on it. and my wife finally understood like why that green thing was so important to me. And it was a really meaningful moment, to finally, because I could try to explain it and she didn't get it until she saw that.
It's like seeing reaction. Superman wearing his cape.
Yeah. Another reason for me writing my book is it's just my lived experience. And I'm not telling anybody what autism is. I'm not telling anybody what autistic people need. I'm just talking about how I felt as an autistic person in various events. And, I think you said before, Dave, that's meaningful to people if they relate.
That's what this podcast is about. People sharing their lived experience. Yeah. It's great.
But on LinkedIn, I hear so much that is so absolutely clear. So the other day, there was a post where somebody talked about, what their traits are and how other people perceive them. So, for example, my need for clarity is misread as being pedantic, or my direct communication is misread as being blunt. And I wrote back to her, I said, there's one trait that I know I share with all these autistic kids that I go to, even though they're all so different, is that we all have trouble reading other people. So I would never be confident in saying, Barry, you're reading me as being pedantic. Unless you told me that, I would have no confidence. I might feel that way, but I really don't know.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I think that's just an important aspect. I think a lot of what I read for people who are autistic is they feel something and they experience something, and they then think that's what other people see or what other people feel. And I just know for me, I mean, that's one of the big problems is I have no idea how people are perceiving me. And, I definitely, no, sorry
Yes.
to say it.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's exactly the thing is we don't understand the impact that we're having.
Yeah, I mean, so I have one essay, and it'll move into a chapter that's about autistic people seeming narcissistic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, there's actually a lot of literature on even with clinicians that they can at first see autistic people as being narcissistic, when reality we're not at all narcissistic because we're like all about ourselves. We're narcissistic because we don't really understand anything but ourselves. And my joke. Well, so I have a story where this happened recently. So one of my good colleagues here, we went out for lunch one day, and he's a historian but was thinking of doing a master's in biology, but he's just an amazing guy, and we hadn't seen each other for a while. So we asked how we were doing, and I went off on how I was doing, and I went off on one of my 10-minute discussions, and he stopped me and he said, Jim, would you like some advice? And I said, sure. And he said, you might want to pay some attention to me. and anyway, so we agreed on this, on a safe word, ostrich. So if either of us were talking too much and we wanted the conversation to come back, he would say ostrich. And it was really amazing. But it also was, the first time that I had actually realized that someone could perceive me as narcissistic. And in my story, I said that's so weird because the last thing I feel like is the center of the universe. I feel like Pluto after it learned it wasn't a planet.
Yes, you're exactly right. Narcissism, I feel like, requires another individual or people to participate in your narcissism. I don't need anyone to participate in my Asperger's.
And I think what one of our guests probably, I'm thinking about Jacqueline Fady, would probably say, well, that's a neurotypical social concept. So I'm going to kind of say some things in service of thanking you. And Dave, chime in also, feel free. So Jim, thank you so much for being so pathologically genuine with us. It's been wonderful, and I'm sure our listeners will not only be in awe of your expertise and accomplishments, but also in awe of your sensitivity to your students and you being a model of honesty and forthrightness. So that's so important. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's been so fun talking to you. I wish we could do this like every week.
Let's do it.
Yeah.